Last season, we already know that the Giants were the NFL's biggest Cinderella story. They won enough games to get into the playoffs, going 9-7-1. They upset the Minnesota Vikings in the wild card round, even though many people would tell you that that wasn't an upset. But I didn't expect the Giants to win that game against Minnesota. Daniel Jones barred out. Yeah, they got dismantled and shredded by the Philadelphia Eagles, but for the most part, the New York Giants severely overachieved last year. I mean, they had a guy named Isaiah Hodgins snapping at wide receiver against Patrick freaking Peterson, bruh. Like, how many of you guys knew who the hell Isaiah Hodgins was prior to last season? Not too many, because this was somebody who came off another team's practice squad and just started going off out of nowhere. And then Daniel Jones, he got paid a lot of money this offseason. And I'm a little bit skeptical about Daniel Jones. I'm not going to say I'm a doubter of Daniel Jones, but I'm still not a believer in Daniel Jones. So I don't really know what that makes me. I'm not a believer. I'm not a doubter. I'm still in wait and see mode with Daniel Jones. The Giants did get better this offseason, though. Okay, you trade for Darren Waller. You signed Parris Campbell in free agency. You also were able to get wide receiver Jalin Hyatt, the speedster, out of Tennessee. You got a fantastic rookie center and John Michael Smith. I was watching the New York Giants YouTube vlog that they had on draft day when they were trying to figure out if they were going to be able to get John Michael Smith and Jalin Hyatt, and they ended up walking away with both. So the general manager was really thrilled with that. Brian Daboll was really happy with that. It just seems like the whole entire New York Giants organization is really thrilled with the acquisitions that they made over the course of this offseason. But when I look at this roster, though, I still kind of question if the Giants are going to be able to repeat the success that they had last year in 2023. This division got better. Philadelphia, yeah, they lost a couple of coaches. They lost some key players in free agency, but they did a fantastic job at drafting those replacements. Not just in this past year's draft, but in the previous year's draft. And then you have Jalen Hurts, who was a premier MVP candidate. He was the runner-up behind the guy who won MVP last year. So for the Philadelphia Eagles, you know they're going to be there. The Dallas Cowboys are most definitely going to be there with Dan Quinn as their defensive coordinator. Yeah, Mike McCarthy made a change at OC, but the Dallas Cowboys still have one of the better rosters in the whole entire NFC conference. And then you have the Washington Commanders, and this is where New York Giants fans are probably about to click off the video, or you're about to comment something really angry in the comment section, but the Washington Commanders, they have Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator now. You may not be a big believer in Sam Howell, but you should at least have a little bit of faith in Eric Bieniemy. I mean, people on ESPN, FS1, a lot of people in the national media go to war for Eric Bieniemy being head coach material. And if Eric Bieniemy is as good as a coach as people make him out to be, if he ends up working out for the Washington Commanders and this offense ends up improving and it's way better this season than what it was last season, plus you think about the fact that Washington had a top 10 defense last season, Washington, without a doubt, is going to be a lock for the playoffs. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. Their wide receiving core, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, is better than the Giants. I was going back and forth with a Giants fan in the comment section of a previous video that I had uploaded not too long ago. He was like, man, the Giants have a way better receiving core than the Washington Commanders. Do you really? I mean, Parris Campbell had a okay season last year, but that was the most productive season of his whole entire career. He's been in the NFL for what, 4 to 5 years? You got Wan'Dale Robinson coming back, who I really like a lot. But you got Darius Slayton, who is okay at times, but he also has a huge issue with having concentration drops in the biggest moments of games. And then you have Isaiah Hodgins. I mean, this dude was snapping last season. I mean, I call him the Patrick Peterson destroyer because all he does is just make Patrick Peterson look like a bum. But are you really confident that your wide receiving core is going to be dynamic enough to be able to put points on some of the NFL's best defenses this year, which all reside in this division, that's something that a lot of New York Giants fans never talk about. Yeah, you were able to scheme your way to the playoffs last season, but now with the division increasing in competition, with more talent and better coaches getting added, such as Eric Bieniemy to the Commander's staff, I mean, there's a really strong chance that the New York Giants don't make it to the postseason. JT, we got Darren Waller though, man. He's one of the best tight ends in the game. Hell yeah, Darren Waller is one of the best tight ends in the NFL when he's healthy. Darren Waller is 30-something years old and hasn't played in a full season since 2020. So can you trust him to stay healthy? I mean, I don't like to speculate about injuries because you never can predict when injuries will or won't happen, but you also have to know that there's a high probability that a guy like Darren Waller, who's been injury prone for the last 2 years, has a high risk of getting injured again. The New York Giants, offensively, do they have enough talent to be able to win enough games against some of the top defenses in the NFL, which all kind of reside in the NFC East? Washington had the top 10 defense last year. That's probably not going to change. If anything, their defense should get better now that they're going to have an offense that can be efficient and can sustain drives. You know, Philadelphia's defense is still going to be good despite losing their defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon. But it seems like a lot of Eagles players and a lot of Eagles fans make it seem like Jonathan Gannon wasn't even that good of a DC. The guy struggled to make adjustments in the Super Bowl. He struggled to make adjustments in big games at times. So many people don't even view him as a significant loss. I mean, they lost their offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, but this offense, let's just keep it a stack. It's not going to have a severe drop-off because they lost their OC. This is still one of the most talented offenses in the NFL. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. When you look at their roster, they only got better. Trading for Brandon Cooks, their defense even got better. Trading for Stephon Gilmore. For the New York Giants, if you're a Giants fan, put your bias aside. Do you really believe that these receivers, Isaiah Hodgins, Parris Campbell, Darius Slayton, are going to be able to be productive against Stephon Gilmore, Trayvon Diggs, James Bradbury, and Darius Slay? I mean, even Washington has a really good secondary with a phenomenal pass rush. I mean, you got Saquon Barkley still, who is one of the best running backs in the game. He's a weapon. But how many elite weapons do you have on this offense? Darren Waller, he's good when he's on the field, but can you trust him to stay healthy? This is somebody who hasn't played in a full season in 2 going on 3 years. It's a reason why the Raiders were willing to part ways with Darren Waller for the compensation that they got in return, which pretty much was a bag of chips and a flat soda. I'm not saying that I'm doubting the New York Giants. I believe that they have a really good chance of returning to the postseason, but I also have my reservations about the Giants because they didn't really add any truly elite playmakers to this offense aside from Darren Waller, who has proven to be unable to stay healthy over the course of 2 years. And you guys already know how I feel about Daniel Jones. The guy won a playoff game. He deserved to get paid. But is this going to be a quarterback who can lead you back to the promised land, given the fact that the NFC East has 3 of the NFL's best defenses? And I do say best with strong emphasis. Washington, Philadelphia, and the Dallas Cowboys, all 3 had some of the best defenses in the NFL in 2022. And that most likely is not going to change this season. If you're the New York Giants and you're a Giants fan, you kind of have to look at your weapons, the playmakers that you have, and compare that to the rest of the division. The New York Giants kind of still have the worst roster in the NFC East. The only difference between the Commanders this season and last season is that the Commanders didn't really have the quarterback situation figured out. You can push back and say, man, JT, Sam Howell ain't shit, man. Like, he hasn't proven anything. The guy only won one game at his debut against the Dallas Cowboys. Like, the jury's still out on him. Yes, it is. But one thing that a lot of people fail to recognize is the importance of good coaching. And if Eric Bieniemy is as good as a coach as people make him out to be, the Commanders' offense is going to improve, and Sam Howell is going to have a good season. And if this offense ends up improving with how good that defense was last year, it's only going to get better if the offense improves. So therefore, Washington has a playoff spot. You know, the Cowboys are probably going to have a playoff spot. And we already know that Philadelphia is as close to a lock as what you get. If you're the New York Giants, you could win 8-9 games and maybe possibly still miss out on the postseason. Maybe. But this division is that tough. Yeah, you got better, and Giants fans are going to say, man, JT, we got a better team this season than what we got last year. Yes, you do. But you kind of fail to realize that you're not the only team that got better.